It's really 2014. And we just had a wonderful employee luncheon and appreciation with a great attendance of our employees. And I just want to reiterate a little something that John Peacock said, and that I kind of put an exclamation point on by saying it again at our luncheon. We have just done a community survey of our county services, and our ratings came back tremendously high, and a lot of that, the majority of that, I would say, is accredited to the staff that we have, all the way up from the director heads down to the frontline employees, and we're very proud as policymakers. You know, we're up here as elected officials. We have a lot of contact with people in the public because we're the people that they call and email and that sort of stuff. And the good stuff that we hear back is usually about the service that's provided by the employees within our organization. So I think I speak for the entire board to say that we as a board are very proud of all of our employees. With that said, part of our meeting today is a proclamation for our Spotlight of the Year Award, and that's what we're going to be starting off with here. So I would like to call up Larry Palaio, who is the recipient of our Spotlight of the Year Award.
Here.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right.
And the camera is on the other side there for TV purposes.
All right.
So you can download a video and you can send it to your family here.
Okay.
This is a proclamation of the Board of County Commissioners of Pickens County, Colorado, honoring Larry Palaio, 2013 Employee Spotlight of the Year. Whereas Larry Palaio is so much more than a security officer at the Aspen-Pickens County Airport. The blazing orange noise-reducing headphones he wears on top of his head are enough to set him apart from the rest of the crowd. And whereas Larry Palaio has long had a special place in his heart for the hundreds of disabled veterans who come to Aspen every spring to participate in the National Disabled Veterans Winter Sports Clinic. And whereas Larry Palaio makes sure he's available on the weekend that the vets fly in and out, working long hours to help coordinate veterans, unload and set up countless wheelchairs, set up meet and greet tables, and usher vets through the airport, making them feel welcome and appreciated. His actions reflect positively on the airport and every Pickens County government employee. And whereas you can't buy the public relation that Larry Palaio delivers rain, sleet, wind, and snow, he probably does more to promote friendly feeling of the airport than a terminal full of golden retrievers. And whereas, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Pickens County Commissioners and the people of Pickens County are honored to recognize Larry Palaio as a highly valued employee that consistently raises the bar and is a positive role model for the entire Pickens County staff. Dated this 26th day of March 2014. Larry, thank you for your service.
Congratulations. Thank you.
And I'll present this to you a second time.
All right. Yeah, thank you. I will take it a second time.
Good to have you on our staff. Thank you very much. I don't know if you want to say anything to the audience again.
No, thank you. I appreciate it very much. A lot of work coming this weekend because another 400 vets are coming in. Good weather.
There we go.
The little dogs, too, yes. Okay.
Congratulations, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you everyone for coming, and again, thank you to all the staff that make our establishment so wonderful. So, appreciate it. Looks like they're all getting out there to get back to their jobs.
That's right.
As opposed to listening to some of the agenda items today. Next on our agenda is if there are any additions or deletions to the agenda.
There are no additions or deletions to the agenda.
The next item on our regular meeting is public comment. At this time, I'll open the floor up to the public to make any comments if they so wish to at this time. Seeing none, I will bring it back to the board, and I will open it up for commissioner comments. Steve?
There is another musical event coming up sponsored by the Aspen Choral Society. This is by far the hardest choral work that we will have ever performed here in Aspen. The piece is Chichester Psalms, which is written by Leonard Bernstein. The words are all in Hebrew, so the whole choir has to be learning Hebrew. And luckily, we have some of our members who have had Hebrew classes and are able to help teach us that. The concert will be held on Saturday, April 5th, which is why I'm announcing it today, because we won't have another meeting before then. It's at 7:30 at the Aspen School District Theater on Saturday, April 5th. We hope to have lots of people come. It will be a very interesting concert. There's a second piece called Crying for a Dream, which kind of has Native American and environmental kind of theme to it. So hope to see you there. Thank you.
Other commissioner comments? George?
We've had some great results from a community survey that came back to us recently, giving us a lot of kudos for being a great county to live in, appreciated of the service that our county residents get from our staff and our programs. But we also have some opportunities to look at in terms of where the community feels they need some more help. And one of those areas is in the area of mental health, mental awareness. And we all know that this past year, as in previous years, this community has come together to mourn the loss of our community members, supported those families and friends, to try to figure out why people do what they do. No one really has any answers. But this Monday night at the Wheeler Opera House, from 6 to 8 p.m., there will be a community forum on the discussion on mental health. And I would encourage everyone who's interested in this topic to attend. It's a free meeting, free forum, and there's going to be a guest speaker, Dr. Kelly Poshner Gestenhaber, probably not pronouncing that correctly, but anyway, he's the associate professor in psychiatry at Columbia University and the director of the Center for Suicide Risk Assessment at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. There'll be a panel discussion and Q&A session on mental health issues. There'll be local speakers, there'll be personal testimonials, suicide prevention tips, and how-tos for helping loved ones. So again, that will be this Monday night, March 31st at the Wheeler Opera House from 6 to 8 p.m.
Thank you, George. Other commissioner comments? At this point, I'll move on to our consent action items. The first item is a approval of the minutes of the work session of March 4th, March 11th, and the regular meeting of March 12th. I'll entertain a motion or comment on that item.
So moved.
Second?
The first and the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next is a resolution approving appointments to the members of the Rural Resort Regional Workforce. And John is scheduled to talk on this, but I could also elaborate as to what this is about since I'm the one being appointed to it.
Well, and just briefly, at the beginning of each calendar year, the board passes a resolution appointing members to different committees and commissions, and the board did pass a resolution already appointing Rob to this. This is a resolution that's really formally required by the Workforce Investment Board. to acknowledge the board's appointment of Rob to the Workforce Investment Board, and it is the same resolution is passed in the same form by all the participating counties.
And just to also explain, the Workforce Investment Board is a state board that oversees the opportunities of hiring and connecting employers with employees and the programs that are set up by the state regarding those things. Our rural workforce comes down to Aspen once a month at the Pickens County Library, and I'm going to say the wrong date, but I think it's the third Tuesday of the month. But they also have offices in Glenwood Springs.
Very good. Would you accept a motion?
I will.
I would move to approve the resolution approving appointments of members to the Rural Resort Regional Workforce Investment Board and appointing the state of Colorado as the operator of the workforce centers in the rural resort region.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we are actually going to do some actions as our ambulance district. So I will adjourn for the moment as the Board of County Commissioners and take a motion to convene as the Board of the Ambulance District.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. So now we are convening as the ambulance district, and this was something that was a little pressing. So we have an emergency resolution approving a lease agreement between the Aspen Ambulance District and the Fire Protection District. And John Peacock is going to fill us in on this.
Thanks, Robin. I just acknowledge that Gabe Muthing, I believe, just came through the door and can answer operating questions. But as background, in late January, it came to staff's attention, to my attention, that the next phase of the hospital construction would impact the current ambulance barn, which is located on Aspen Valley Hospital land that is leased to the county for the purpose of housing ambulance services. They are going to be doing a major excavation project that will basically cut off utilities as well as physical access for the ambulances, making the facility unusable for approximately a 7-month period. So at that point, we started working on alternative locations. We did look into several alternatives for temporarily housing the ambulance services. The one that seems to work best for both the ambulance service and our partner in the Aspen Fire Protection District is to temporarily relocate the ambulance services to the North 40 Fire Department for the ambulance fire, or the Aspen Fire District. There's too many districts in here for me to keep track of at this point. What's in front of you today is a lease agreement that we negotiated with the Aspen Fire Protection District staff and board for temporary use of the facility. It's a cost-sharing arrangement. Any incremental costs that are incurred by the ambulance district over and above what would be normal facility costs will actually be borne by the hospital. I do have a letter in my office to that effect. So that is going to be approximately at this point in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $22,000 for this period. That incremental cost will be borne by the hospital, presumably through a reduction in their administrative charge to the district. And so what's in front of you today is a lease agreement. We did it in the form of an emergency resolution to follow the county standards. Again, we had hoped to have the lease completed at an earlier time. It took a little bit of time for us to work it through our various legal reviews, as well as work out the specific terms of the arrangement. And so we are happy to answer any questions regarding the terms of the lease or what it means for operations.
Steve?
I have a couple of questions. One has to do with the Aspen Fire Protection District. Are they going to be moving some of their operations to one of their other stations to make room for the ambulance district to be there?
Actually, very little. Right now, the North 40 Fire Station, most of the offices and the living space in there is really unoccupied and used very
Gabe,
little.
if you can just identify yourself for the...
I apologize.
Thank you.
I'm Gabe Uthing with the Aspen Ambulance District. I'm the operations manager. So again, they'll be moving very little operations from their station. They do have a large complement of vehicles and equipment out there. But as a volunteer organization, most of it just stays there ready and available for use for them. So they have graciously really given us pretty much free run to the station, which I can't thank them enough. They've moved a lot of their equipment around and kind of moved it to different stations as they needed, and given us plenty of bay space to put the ambulances inside in a protected area. Both from the weather and then also just security reasons, we keep the ambulances locked. And then they've also given us operational space as well, so we'll have bedrooms over there for our guys as they work 24-hour shifts. They do sleep while on duty, and then we'll also have office space over there as well. So it really does, it fits well, and I think as John said, it really, it's been almost a perfect arrangement for us.
Yeah, I noticed that you'll be paying half of the expenses while you're there, and it looks like you're maybe taking over about half of the space. But was that calculated or?
Yeah, I might go answer. Right now the North 40, the ambulance district is going to be a 24/7 use that may be a little more intensive than what's been there. And so even though I think actually it's a little bit less than half the space, we felt that was a fair arrangement, particularly because if you look at the facility use fee, it's definitely below what we'd be paying if we were out in the private market looking for it. And so we felt that was a fair place to start for those two reasons, and that's something that is acceptable to the fire district also.
Just with us moving in there, we will have some extra power costs. We're incurring some costs for IT work, having to put in data lines that they don't currently have. So there will be. It's a nice arrangement. I believe that we're probably equal in our arrangements. It'll work out well.
And just out of curiosity, being at that location a little bit out of on the edge of Aspen instead of closer in, will that work better for you, or is it kind of depends on where your calls are, I guess.
Exactly. If I could tell you all our calls were on one side of town, that'd be easy. Unfortunately, it's not. What I think will help us, though, is that the 7 months that we'll be out of our current quarters, in the summer, obviously, our district opens up dramatically. In the winter, our business pretty much sticks around the ski hills in Aspen, and that's really it. In the summer, it extends well beyond that. So it'll be a good place to be, and believe it or not, it's fairly central in our district to be there, and quite honestly, to respond to Aspen or any of the areas down here, the change in response times is negligible, really, for us. So we looked at that quite extensively to make sure that we still provided the best service possible and didn't have any impacts in that respect. And I feel comfortable that we will.
Okay.
We'll be just fine.
Okay. Can I make a resolution?
Yeah.
I move to approve the emergency resolution adopting a lease agreement between the Aspen Ambulance District and the Aspen Fire Protection District.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion? Oh, is this a public hearing for this? No.
No, there'll be a confirmatory reading.
Yeah, this is an emergency ordinance, and we'll have a confirmatory reading of this on April 9th. No further discussion. I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Gabe, completely unrelated. These are the Pickens County ambulance licenses. If you could please get those on to Jim or whoever they need to go to.
Got it. Great.
And they're
Thank you
last
very
year's licenses, too.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now I will adjourn as the Aspen Ambulance District and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
Do you need a motion to adjourn? I would move to adjourn as the Aspen Ambulance District Board.
Second?
First and a second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we will reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners in our regular meeting. Next is our consent action first reading set for public hearing on April 9th. And we have a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with Garfield County for permanency of children's services, and Nan Sundin is here. Or Kim is here to present. Thank you. Do you want to lead us through this MOU?
Yes. Basically, this is an agreement.
Oh, and please just introduce yourself for the record, too.
My name is Kim.
I haven't gotten very good at that.
That's okay. I always forget.
Thanks, Kim.
My name is Kim Dubois, and I'm the Adult and Family Services Manager for Picken County Human Services. And basically, this is the first reading of a memorandum of understanding that was already signed by the Garfield County County Commissioners. And basically, it's just an agreement that we will work together on something called a 4E waiver practice to support permanency for children in our area. And the 4E waiver actually is funding that comes down through the federal government, and we often haven't been able to access that because we don't have many people that qualify. And that money was used at the front end for people to get services for out-of-home placement. And since the state is moving towards more of a preventive approach and try to get kids at the front end, which we've been doing for a while, this 4E waiver application was a great opportunity for us to participate in that and get some staff resources for our county as well to perform some of these duties. So we're just asking you, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And then we were just wondering if we could provide any more information that you might need for the first reading.
So was this this waiver, was that tied in with a grant that we received as part of a part of a state grant? And our region received a certain portion to go towards this program?
Yes. So how it occurred before is that if we had kids that qualified, we received some of the we didn't receive directly, but the state received funding for those kids who were in out-of-home placement. What they did is last, I think it was May or June, they requested a 4E waiver at the federal level to see if those funds could instead be used to support kids before they enter an out-of-home placement or to support kin placement. So basically to support permanency for kids. And so this was, we applied together, and Garfield County and Picken County, and they actually applied on our behalf, and they received the resources, and they have allocated staff to help support the different pieces of this in our county.
Rachel?
Yeah, by way of historical context,
Yes.
Only some states have received this waiver ability to use the waiver. The majority of states were not.
Right.
And about 3 years ago, the National Association of Counties, when our meeting in D.C., the Colorado delegation made it its top push to get these 4E waivers. And the emphasis is that when you can heal a family and when you can improve a family before it falls apart due to various pressures or problems, it's far better for the child in terms of long-term outcomes. So in the past, you really could only use the money and the resources once the family had fallen apart. And this allows you to intervene with a lot of services earlier on, and avoiding those out-of-home placements for children at risk is just a really good thing. So it's been a good program. I was glad to see we're utilizing the grant that we got.
Yes. Thank you. That was a great summary.
Steve?
I was curious about Eagle County and what they do. Do they have also an MOU with Garfield County, or?
They decided not to apply for this portion of there were different elements of it, and so they decided not to apply for this portion of it, the kinship supports, the team decision-making meetings, and so we talked to them, and they were fine with us applying on behalf of Pitkin County and then Algebel and Basalt, Eagle County, so that our practices were aligned with our the entire region that we serve. So Eagle does benefit from this, however, they didn't apply with Garfield County. That was our agreement with them. So.
Okay, so the part of Eagle County that we have the agreement with them to run the programs there, that part is included in it?
Yes.
Okay.
And they are practicing some of the elements of this. They're just doing it with their own staff resources in there. So.
Okay.
Good questions?
Make a motion,
Yeah.
if you're ready. I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with Garfield County for permanency for children's services.
Second.
And this is a first reading set for public hearing on April 9th. Is there any further discussion among the board? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Unanimously passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we are moving into our land use public hearings. And the first item on our agenda is the Elam Construction Annual Review. And Mike Kramer is the staff member presenting on this, and here's the overhead.
Yes, thank you. Give me a second, Rob, to put a map up. Okay, thank you. Mike Kramer with Pitkin County Planning Staff, and this is the Elam Construction Incorporated Special Review Permit and Annual Review of their 2013 operating plan. And next to me we have Gail Lyman with Elam Construction, and up on the screen here I actually have a map of Elam Gravel Pit. And I just thought it'd be good to give the board again an idea of where Elam is in the gravel pit and what is approved out there. So this is Upper River Road right here, and over to the west of that is the Woody Creek Mobile Home Park. East of there is phase 1 of the mining operation. And that area is actually already mined out, and Elam is in the process of reclaiming that area and taking import material for reclamation. Over to the south is their office in Wayscale. Over here is where the seasonal employees for the summer work for Elam, and they bring their mobile homes in there and stay for the summer. And this is all considered phase 1 of the mining operation. And then in 2009, the board approved phase 2. And phase 2 is this big hillside to the east. And that's about a 16-acre area. And as you can see from the aerial, I think this is 2011 aerial photography. You can see where they're starting to mine. And the mining area stops here, and then this whole hillside will, at some point in the next 20 to 25 years, go away. And we can ask Gail if you have more detailed questions than that about the operation. So every year, Elam is required to apply to the BOCC for an annual review, and this is a review of their 2013 operations of last year. And our purview then is to review their expansion area under their 2009 resolution, and then also whatever conditions that apply to the 2012 annual review. So staff has outlined responses to all those conditions in both resolutions, and we have our responses there. The board wants to ask questions. But of note, as you all know, in 2012 season, we did receive quite a few dust and noise complaints. This year was considerably less. We had one dust complaint and one noise complaint by the adjacent neighbor, and they reported onto the applicant. In both cases, well, I should say in the dust complaint case, it came a day after the dust actually happened, so staff couldn't see it firsthand. And then also, as far as noise, the noise complaint came after 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the evening, where the complainant said that they could still hear the crusher operating down in the phase 1 of the pit. We forwarded that on to the applicant for response to, and we can ask him about that. But basically, staff has done noise compliant testing at the Elam property line, and there's two numbers that are of note in noise. One is that Elam has a 55 decibel level reading at the property line. So what that means is, as the property line sits here along the orange, Elam is required to have no more than a maximum of 55 decibel level, 55 decibels at that property line. And really the testing that occurs most is in this area right here because of the adjacent neighbor. And when staff did their noise testing, we found them in compliance. There was one noise test that Elam had done, and their required noise testing that spiked over 55 decibel levels. And I should note too that when staff and when Elam does their noise testing, we don't have the sophisticated noise sampling equipment that you would have like through an engineering company. Staff does have a calibrated device where we can hold it up and try to avoid when the noisy planes go over, or try to avoid when a weed whacker is being used, so we can try and get a good sample of what the noise level is out there. But that is our test right there. And Gail and I actually have calibrated our devices together so we know they're operating correctly. So that's the status of the noise testing that we have done in the past. We have also, over the years, done noise testing at the residence, and the residence here is the Braun residence. And the number of note to that review was that in 2009, the approval subjected Elam to a 48 decibel level reading at the house too. And over the years, we've gone to Gail's property there, and we've done the noise testing, and we found that in compliance also with the 48 decibel level reading at the residence. So those are, as far as noise and dust, those are the subjects on those. Also of note from last year's, if you remember, we had a required landscaping plan to be implemented by Elam to screen the expansion area from the residents over here. And what Gail did was he abided by last year's special review resolution. He submitted a landscape plan to staff, and the landscape plan talked about why the old landscaping didn't take, and basically it was because of watering and soils. And what the landscape plan did and what got implemented out there was that amended soils were used, and Gail installed a sprinkler system with a pump that will water the landscaping out there. So staff saw the sprinkler system, we saw the pump, the landscaping is in and it appears to be doing well. We also counted the required number of trees pursuant to the older resolutions, and that is in compliance too. So we are all crossing our fingers that the landscaping takes and we don't have any more issue with that. So that is mostly the annual review for Elam. Oh, I should add that Elam is also subject to soil and water sampling in phase 1 of the pit, and that's over here on the map, where water collects down in the phase 1 area of the pit. And both soil and water testings were within the threshold limits of their previous approvals, so there's no issue there. So staff has drafted a resolution, and we are recommending that the BOCC adopt a motion to accept the 2013 annual review for Elam.
Questions for staff from the county commissioner, Steve?
Could you show on the overhead where the landscape planting is, just to refresh our memory?
Yep. So this is phase 1, and this is phase 2 of the expansion area. And the required landscaping was implemented and installed right along this road to the backside. And there's trees that kind of pepper this road right here. And then there's also landscaping planted over in this meadow. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a flatter kind of sage meadow over there. And there's various plants and trees and shrubs that were planted in that area then too. But the basic idea is that the landscaping will screen the Braun residents here from the expansion area when that hillside goes down.
And is the water for the irrigation, does it come out of the pond in the low spot in the
No,
pit,
it doesn't.
or-
It actually comes, you can see that, Steve, there's a road right there that goes around the expansion area. And there's another road right here that goes down to the Elam well. And that's where they have installed the irrigation system and the pump to get water up to the landscape.
Okay, so then that's where the water comes for the watering the roads and all that too, the dust suppression from that well?
I think so, we can ask Gail that when Sister talks.
Okay.
Other questions, staff? Michael?
What's the road leading off of Upper River Road between the post office?
That's Raceway Road, and that's not the primary road for Elam use. The primary road, it's off the map, comes off of, whatever that segment is between Upper River Road and McLean Flats. I think that'd be called Upper River Road. And that's where all the truck traffic goes into Elam.
So is that a private road?
That is a private road.
And so what use is on that road? What use?
Well, to the south of Elam is the raceway down this way. We can't see it on the map. And obviously we have the Elam gravel pit up top here.
So they use it?
The Elam uses that road, yeah.
But
It sounds like the raceway track uses it as their entrance.
Yes.
and who does it belong to?
I'm pretty sure it's a privately owned road. It's certainly not a county road.
So you don't know who it belongs to?
Other questions of staff? Gail, if you'd like to give your presentation, just state your name for the record and fill in the blanks for us.
I'll certainly try. My name's Gail Lyman. I'm with Elam Construction. Try to answer some of the questions that came up during Michael's presentation and kind of expand a little bit on what Michael was going over. Excuse myself, I had a flu for the last couple of weeks and I still got a cough that kind of lingers on, so try to keep from coughing here. Basically our site activities for 2013 included mining and crushing. That pretty much went through April through the end of July. Intermittent operation of our asphalt plant throughout the year. Operation of the concrete plant, which is underneath United Companies, used to be Lafarge. And then, we've accepted import material throughout the year. And then, of course, underneath the separate use permit, why we accept snow during the winter months. And of course, underneath that permit, we're required to test the soil with that too. That's been submitted to the county, reviewed and approved. Excuse me. As far as the noise monitoring goes, I'm going to give some information here that just basically refresh the commissioner's memory on what we're required to do and then what we have been doing. And this goes back to 2006, we developed a noise monitoring plan that's been implemented. Per the approved plan, we normally monitor, we're required to monitor once a week for 4 consecutive weeks after we start up an operation, then it backs off to once a month after that. As Mike mentioned, our noise limit at the property lines is 55 decibels, which is where we take our readings from. In the packet that was submitted to the county, I did provide a map showing our monitor locations. These are actually staked out in the field, so we go to the same relative location each and every time So we got apples to apples comparison of our noise levels rather than, randomly going out there and just taking samples of noise. What we implemented internally without completely revising our noise monitoring plan, when we started mining phase 2, and because of the sensitive nature of the noise impact to the Braun residents, during our heavy operations, of mining and crushing, we opted to go ahead and take daily readings at 3 points closest to the Braun residents. One is roughly right up here at the intersection of the roads. The second, which if you look in the packet, you'll see this here is identified as 0.8. Sorry for the shakiness. Down here is 0.9, and then over in this area here is 0.10. These three were selected because of the the proximity and closeness to the Braun residents to our activities. These are taken on a daily basis, and then the other 360 degrees around the pit are taken on a weekly basis. So, you can see where we've greatly increased our noise monitoring just because of the concern expressed by the Brauns of noise impacts during that. Mike identified that we did have one noise level reading that spiked above 55, and it actually came in at 55.4 decibels. And that was at this point number 9, right down here, the one that's closest to the Brauns. Our forms that we use when we do our monitoring, we identify any external noises or any conditions that may influence the readings. And at that particular time that we took the readings, there is heavy bird activity. There's some blue herons that nest in the cottonwoods right down there nearby where that monitor point is. Plus the fact that there are some heavy flows in Woody Creek at the time too. The readings the day prior to that and the days after that were below 55 decibels, so we just had the one day at that one point where we had an exceedance of the 55 decibels that, again, based on our investigation, we attributed to external noises not originating from the gravel pit itself. But, in fairness, why we need to disclose that to the county that that was our reading. Let's see. So that's, in the packet that was provided to the county, we did provide some graphs. We have 11 monitor locations surrounding the pit. We did provide monthly averages at each one of those pits throughout the duration of our operations, which went from April through November. We also provided in that figures for locations 8, 9, and 10, which showed that the daily readings in a graph form, again identifying where we're at, which again is for the most part well below the 55 decibel threshold, with that one reading exception. Complaints, as Mike mentioned, we were forwarded on one noise complaint which took place back in May. The description was banging and grumbling coming from the new mining area. I did investigate. We did have activities going on during that time frame that Mrs. Braun claimed that she heard the noise. Again, I don't doubt that you heard something. What it originated from, I'm not real sure. It could have been, because we were still mining, still, doing some crushing on that particular day, for whatever reason, atmospheric conditions may have allowed some noise to be a little bit more relevant over there. Our noise readings for that day that were taken, unfortunately, our noise readings will never coincide with a time of a complaint. But, the noise readings for that time frame, we were below the 55 decibels at the property line. The other complaint received was a dust complaint. And in the email, it was noted, I received it a day or so after the actual complaint, but it was noted in the complaint that there was heavy gusts of wind that particular day that she noticed the dust too. So again, there were some atmospheric conditions that contributed to some dust getting whipped up into the air. Weed management, we continue with our weed management program, which was submitted to the county last year, reviewed, approved. And I'm going to go into that a little bit later on too, because that was one of the other special conditions in our 2013 resolution to add another observation and application to the weeds. But with that being said, we had 3 applications, spring, summer, and fall. I think since we went with a new weed exterminator, for lack of better words, I think our success has been very night and day-ish between before this new weed person came on board to after he came on board. And I think Mike can help attribute that you know, the noxious weeds, especially the thistles that were starting to get a little bit out of control previously, have been reined in greatly since the hiring of this new firm. Water resource protection, again, we're required to take soil samples once a quarter or once every 20,000 yards. You know, last year we took in roughly about 12,000 yards total. Nothing during the first quarter, so there were just 3 samples obtained last year during the second, third, and fourth quarter of the year. Water samples required once a month, you know, during non-winter months, basically April through October, November. And you know, again, those samples are tested for petroleum, hydrocarbons, BTEX, and then RCRA metals, and all those tests came back in within the approved thresholds. Going into some additional requirements based on last year's resolution. The first one has to do with our landscaping, which, you know, as most of you remember, we had quite a lengthy discussion last year, and we were directed to hire a professional to come in and do an analysis on our landscaping, which was planned originally in 2009, and then implement any changes that you know, are made to assure the success going forward with our landscaping. We did hire Fitzgerald Landscaping. They have an office here in Aspen, but they're mainly out of Assault, to come up and you know, do a review of that. They did a review, identify problems with the previous landscaping, and I am going to make, I guess, one correction to what Michael alluded to earlier as far as the causes of failure. The primary cause identified in the Fitzgerald report is improper planting, which resulted from our original landscaper. When they pulled the trees out, they still had the burlap, and in some cases the wire basket was still around the root ball of the trees. You know, we were taken advantage of, I guess, is the only thing I can say. You know, again, that was a primary cause for failure, not the only cause. You know, irrigation, you know, maybe some lack of water, as Mike alluded to, you know, I'm sure contributed to some of it, but you know, it's, you know, again, the primary cause was improper planting. We ended up, you know, submitting a new revised landscape plan, and by that, it was the type of trees and shrubs that went up. There was a little bit different variety than what was planted the first go-around. But we ended up, we pulled all 65 of the trees out, unfortunately. They weren't all completely dead, but in the opinion of the landscaper, they were far enough gone that probably within the next couple of years we'd have to go in and pull them out anyhow. So we just bit the bullet, pulled them out, planted all new trees and shrubs, you know, once the county approved the landscape plan. Also this time, we installed an irrigation system, which Mike pointed out down in this area here at the bottom of this road. We do have a permitted well. It's got water rights for both agricultural as well as industrial use to come out of that well, which, you know, is where we can water the roads. That water also goes up to the concrete plant for them to use that water to batch concrete with. And we also are taking advantage of the agricultural rights with that to, you know, put in a drip system, I guess, for lack of better words. I'm not a landscape person, but anyhow, there is a 2-zone irrigation system that has been installed. on a separate pump. We got a surge tank. So, you know, there's enough water available for each time that zone comes on, waters the plants. That was done, I'll say in September, October of last year when we finally got, by the time we got approval, the trees were ordered, all the parts were ordered, and Fitzgerald came in and did all the installation of it. It went from September to October for the installation. As part of our agreement going forward, you know, once the snow melts, they're going to be coming on site to do an analysis of the plantings that they did last year. You know, make sure, I guess, you know, the survival. They're also going to be adjusting the irrigation system, make sure everything's getting the right amount of water. So, you know, we're trying to take all the right measures, I guess would be the way to put it, to ensure the survivability of the landscaping. We don't want to have to go through the expense and everything, you know, to redo this whole thing again. So anyhow, like I said, the landscaping was put in. The counties looked at it. Even though we went during our inspection last week, there's still quite a bit of snow up there. You know, the county made the comment they'll be coming back out sometime this fall again to do a follow-up inspection on that landscaping or plantings as it goes in. So going on to the next condition of last year's resolution that we had to comply with is the applicant shall continue to implement the thistle elimination plan that was approved in 2012 and conduct a midsummer evaluation and spot spray of the thistle on or around August 1st. The mid-year evaluation came on July 28th, where Wilderness Weeds came up and did this midsummer. They also came up on May 17th and October 25th, so 3 different times last year to evaluate and make applications as necessary to the weeds up there. And then the last item with last year's resolution that had to be addressed during 2013 is that we do have 2 on-site wastewater treatment systems, you know, that have been inspected by a licensed Pickton County inspector and have the reports finalized for those inspections submitted to environmental health. They weren't submitted. We also included them with our submittal packet to community development for this hearing here. So they were actually performed on May 15th of last year. So that's, and no problems were noted during those inspections. You know, we did meet with the Woody Creek Caucus back in the end of February. Kind of made a briefer presentation of what you're hearing today, but again, letting you know, the members of the caucus and the community down there know what has transpired the previous year, and field any questions, concerns, or comments from the caucus, which you know, there was a letter/email that was included with staff's report there. Last item I'd like to go ahead and bring up, it really wasn't included with my report to the county, but I would like to let the commissioners know that, you know, last year in August, you know, when the USA Pro Cycle Challenge came through the community, you know, we did voluntarily shut down our operations for a day while they were cycling the race up McLean Flats Road and in front of our pit entrance. Like I said, I say voluntarily, but we really had no choice because they had the road closed anyhow. We are doing that again this year. We have been contacted. I believe August 18th is the date for the, not sure if I have all the terms right, the circuit course from Aspen to Snowmass and running laps there. They're again running by our pit entrance. So we'll be shutting down that particular day again. My understanding, and talking with Mike also, is that on stage 2 of that race, they're going to be going from Aspen, Cemetery Lane, McLean Flats Road back to 82, and then down towards, was it Catherine's Corner? Yep. And then going into Carbondale. So, you know, we are going to be impacted a little bit more this year. You know, I'm guessing a day and a half, we're going to have to shut down. We're still waiting to hear the specific time frames for stage 2, because my understanding that'll be a rolling roadblock. But we are shutting down. For, I'm guessing, about a day and a half, which I'll be honest, I mean, does have a significant impact to our company, revenue-wise, because, we're not able to sell. And, just so everybody has the understanding, I mean, that shutdown does have a farther reach to where, our vendors, the people that are coming in buying material from us, other contracting companies, they're also not going to be able to receive that material for a day and a half too. So, as much as I really applaud the community for succeeding and getting the race here, because I'm a road biker myself, so I get kind of excited about going to watch and keep up on some of this. It does have an economic impact, to the companies around the community too, just so the commissioners are aware that although we're participating, there is a sacrifice, a plus and a minus to that venture. The other question, I believe, I forget now whether Michael or Steve had, was this road, that runs down through here. I'll be honest, I don't know the full history of that road. It is a private road, from my understanding. The road where it comes off of Upper River Road down here close by the post office was the original pit entrance back in the late 70s, early 80s to the gravel mining operation. And obviously this way predates my involvement with Elam Construction. But because of the heavy truck traffic going through the Woody Creek community and with use of the raceway, that sits down here off the map here, the road was extended to connect up with McLean Flats. That is the primary entrance into the Elam pit, is off of McLean Flats Road. The other road, I guess, has been left as more of a convenience. Some of our employees may use it, especially if they're going to run down to the tavern for lunch, things like that. We do get a lot of pedestrian traffic on that road, that like to walk in the area, that may not want to use the Rio Grande Trail. I know that there are people that use that to walk their dogs. I've seen a fair amount up there. But as far as actual ownership, I don't have that answer, guys. Like I said, I know it. I can tell you it's a private road, and we help maintain it, obviously, because we do utilize that quite a bit. But beyond that, I can't tell you who the actual owner is. So with that, that's my presentation. I'll entertain any additional questions or.
George?
Thanks for that great presentation, Gail. I hadn't thought about the Pro Cycle Challenge race, and I'm just curious, in regard to the economic impacts that Elam sees and perhaps other contractors, are they able to adjust their schedules to either get deliveries before or after, so it's not maybe an inconvenience, but perhaps it's not that great an economic sacrifice?
I think it was stage 1 last year, and it's also stage 1 this year. We ended up having to shut down for the entire day, even though the race only maybe a 4-hour race as they run the laps. By the time traffic control has to go through and start setting up, in preparation for shutdown, trying to tell everybody to come in for 1 to 2 hours in the morning is very difficult on that particular day. So we sent out months in advance notifications to all of our vendors that come in, and that has to do with asphalt paving, gravel sales, and we work with, last year's Lafarge, this year it'll be United Companies, but we also work with the concrete supplier in the pit. So all of our vendors understand this day we are shut down. Now hopefully they can adjust their scale. Well, they have to adjust their schedule because if we can't get trucks in or out, and we definitely don't want a truck to come in and get trapped inside the pit and there they sit for hours on end.
With asphalt hardening in the back of the truck.
Exactly. So anyhow, we send out notices and actually have a poster that was posted at the scale house in our office up there. So when coming in and out, we're well advised months in advance of that day closure. Now, whether or not they ordered up additional gravel on that Friday before, so they would have gravel on site, I honestly don't know. A lot of it probably depend on their construction site, if they had room to stockpile that type of material. We are limited on hours of operation, so it's not like we can start really going earlier in the morning and get them stuff, and then shut down at say 9 o'clock. Our hours really don't allow that, and there's always going to be someone trying to push that envelope on trying to get that last minute load, and we don't want to upset the apple cart, so to speak, with the race coming through. So we just shut down that one complete day. I'm sure there's some hardships on the contractors, but again, they were given enough advance notice that they should have been able to plan for it.
Thank you.
Other questions of the applicant? Rachel?
Yeah, thank you as well for the presentation, and it's really good to see that we've kind of gotten to the root of the problem with the landscaping, and done the soil amendments, and are going to be able to hopefully see that flourish going forward. So really appreciate going the extra mile with that.
Thank you.
I would note that the report on the septic by CBO Incorporated made a couple of recommendations, and I was just wondering if those have been done, or will they be done this fall, or where are you at with those?
I believe that was probably the debris that was noted in the one tank.
Yeah, and replace the outlet T on the septic tank, install an effluent filter on the outlet T if replaced.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just a
The
few.
filter's been done.
Okay.
The filter's been done. Excuse me. As far as, there was some debris that was noted that had fallen inside. That's a little bit more challenging to get that out because it's a confined space. Last year it was kind of a disconnect because we had already had the tanks pumped before we realized that the outfit that we used was no longer a licensed inspector by the county. They let that lapse, so we had to bring an inspector in after they were pumped. So we kind of got out of a sync a little bit last year. This year we're going to time it better, and we know the question to ask to make sure. We'll use the same. CBO will come out again and do the inspection at the time of the pumping, and we hope to be able to get in there and take care of some of that cleanup, because it is technically a confined space, and we have to take certain measures with any employees, whether it's ours or a contractor, to get in there safely to work.
Okay, thank you very much for that kind of commitment to follow through on these items.
Steve?
I'd like to thank you for following up on the recommendations on the noxious weed control. I think the folks you hired did it exactly. Their timing looks just perfect to me to, get the best control. And I think you'll probably be pleasantly surprised this summer when you don't see nearly so many thistles coming up. And you do that for about 3 years and you might not have any on the whole place. So that's great. You followed up on that, and also on the landscaping. Looks like that's on the right track now, and I hope that this is close to 100% successful.
Other questions of the applicant? Michael?
I just want to thank you, Gail, and thank Elam too for the work they've done in these issues we faced here, but also in their community efforts in Woody Creek. And thank you very much. And you must be making some progress because the Browns aren't here today, or their attorney. So thank you very much.
It's safe to turn around and look. Thank you.
At this point, I'll open up the public hearing for this land use application. Anybody wishing to speak may do so at this time. Just state your name for the record. Anybody? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on this item and bring it back to the board for further discussion. Rachel?
Well, I'm sitting here kind of looking through my packet for the draft resolution, and I'm just not seeing it.
It's
Towards the front.
page 10 of your scanned numbers.
There we go. And the one thing I was going to kind of ask before making the motion, Gail, is following up on Steve's comment, will you be having the weed people out 3 times this year, both spring, August, and then the fall, to kind of monitor?
I plan on it, and, to follow up with Steve, this will be the 3rd year now that we've used wilderness weeds. And, right now I have no intention of using, a different firm because of the success that we've had with this one. They did make an application during the July 28th visit, the end of July, 1st of August. He did need to apply some at that time, so I'm just going to move forward and again, continue with that procession and have him come up, the 3 times, doing a spring, midsummer, and another fall inspection just as a follow-up.
Okay, great. I was going to ask because I just wasn't sure if we needed to have that as a specific bullet point, but given your, statements regarding this, I think that's fine. And I think that midsummer one is really the critical one, as Steve pointed out last year, because that is exactly when things start to flower and go to seed. So, Steve, I see you have a...
Yeah, Rachel, on the second page on item 4, it says the applicant shall continue to implement the thistle elimination plan.
Okay.
So it is actually mentioned in...
Yeah, I was just wondering if we needed to go to saying 3 or be specific or not, but I appreciate that. I would then make a motion to approve the resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Pickens County, Colorado, granting annual review approval to the Elam Gravel Pit Special Review Permit.
Second.
First and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we take a short break?
Yeah, let's take a 13-minute break, come back at 1:20. Does that work? Commissioners, on March 26, 2014. We are in our land use public hearings section of our agenda. Our next application is the ski company Buttermilk Wireless Cellular Facilities Special Review for Cellular Facilities.
That's a
And
mouthful.
Lance Clark is here to give us our staff
Yes, sir.
presentation.
Lance Clark, Assistant Director, Community Development. What we have before you is a request from the Aspen Skiing Company and an affiliate of American Tower Corporation, which would be the lessor of the lessee of the property, to mount cellular antenna, wireless communication antenna on top of what has come to be known as the Green Building at the base of Buttermilk. This being a snapshot of the current base of Buttermilk, Highway 82 being off the map down where Rob is showing. This being the Children's Center that is soon to be replaced. This being what is referred to as the Green Building. This being Bumps, with which you're all familiar. The request is to mount on the roof of the Green Building 2 what they're calling sleds, and they can explain greater what that is, but it's 2 separate array of wireless communication antenna. And the interesting thing about this is it's already in place, even though we're doing this application. But the reason that it is, all legitimately, is when the X Games were gearing up, the skiing company and American Tower came to staff and said, there's such a huge need for cellular service during the X Games when 15,000 or so people are on site, all with cell phones, all being used at the same time. We need all the capacity we can possibly get. Is it possible to do a temporary commercial use for a facility on top of the green building that would assist during the X Games. And we said, of course, we can do that. And we timed it so that it, by a certain date, if they desired to keep this for a permanent time period, an application would have to come forth, which they did shortly after the X Games. So these array or sleds that you see here in a drawing on top of the green building are already in place, and something that is functioning, and you may or may not have even noticed it at this time. It's really not very noticeable. The interesting thing is, from my perspective as dealing with this all the time, is that this was a visual simulation that they presented to us at the time of the application for the temporary commercial use. This was a drawing to show the way that it would look. And this is an actual photograph of the way it actually looks, which is pretty much exactly the same, which is not always what we get in our visual simulations.
That green color is perfect.
From applicants. So this is already in place, but the need to do it for a permanent time period requires a special review approval from the Board of County Commissioners, and that's what they're asking for from you today. Even though it's not a cell tower, building-mounted cellular antenna also require a special review approval, though it's a much less of a concern. You just did one last month, if you remember, on the top of the animal hospital in the ABC. But the primary concern are the standards for special review criteria, and of those, the foremost is conformance with master plans. The important thing here is that just this fall, a new buttermilk master plan for the base of buttermilk was adopted, and in that it specifically stated that communication transmission sites are allowed at any time subject to applicable Pitkin County land use review approvals. This is the applicable Pitkin County land use approval that you're going through right now. The other master plan of relevance is the new West of Maroon master plan, the WAMP. And this has been vetted with the WAMP and with Cindy and Ellen to see if it is in conformance, and it is. It does not interrupt any designated view planes or in any way violate any of the visual aspects of the WAMP. The other special review criteria are there adequate services in place? Clearly there are. Does not endanger the public health, welfare. We see nothing there. Does not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property. We do not see that as an issue. Consistent with the intent of the zone district in which it is proposed to be located. In the ski rec zone district, which this is, this type of use is specifically listed as a special review use going through this particular review. The character of the immediate vicinity is already commercial. There's already a 40-foot cell tower just a few hundred feet from this that, again, that most people aren't even aware of, that's on the Innet Aspen property. So certainly this is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. We feel that it has minimal, if any, visual impacts. It's not even readily discernible from Owl Creek Road or from Highway 82. In essence, we see no violation and only support in the special review standards. As far as the height, for building-mounted cellular antenna, they're allowed to exceed the maximum height by up to 10 feet. The maximum height is 28 feet, and the total to the top of those green boxes is 23.6 feet. So we're well within all height limitations. We feel this is a good application of what we've been trying to do for the last couple years to enhance cell service around the valley, and we'll have maybe some more to talk about that if you want to after this. I'll let the applicants talk particularly about the value of this site and what it has added to the overall ability of all of us to use our cell phones. But in summary, the board is recommending that, the staff is recommending that the board find in favor of the Aspen Skiing Company American Tower Corporation wireless special review for building-mounted cellular telephone antenna, subject to the conditions in the attached resolution.
Questions of staff? Michael?
Last, when these were installed, did it go through a building permit process?
Yes, sir.
And was it engineered for the extra load here? This is a fairly old building.
Yes, sir.
It was, okay.
Rachel?
Yeah, I have a couple questions, and they may be questions you want to answer as well, but I guess I'm concerned about the integration with the new master plan. Will there be a new application required for the cell tower when the new buildings take place, or will this approval carry forward to the new buildings?
This is specific to what you see. So if there is additional cell service integrated into the new development, it'll require its own review.
Okay, perfect. And then this one photo, is this the ground-based panel?
Yes.
Port that goes with the towers on the top?
Yes.
Okay. I've just wondered how protected that actually is from traffic and cars potentially accelerating unnecessarily or something like that. So you can answer that during your time period. And also, I was just wondering, is the line of sight and the improved reception strictly to folks on the mountain, or does it extend out to 82 and the business center and that sort of thing?
Other questions of staff? George?
Staff, and then Dave, you could probably answer this when you do your presentation. I'm just curious, as we're looking at identifying sites throughout the county to access better cellular and broadband, the concept of these antenna sleds versus a traditional cell tower, are they just as effective? Because they obviously seem to be much less obtrusive and less visible. Well, I'll let them speak to that, and they have other experts with them. But yeah, I'm sorry. It's clearly, I'm sure, as a layperson, not as effective as an 80-foot cell tower out in the middle of, the McLean Flats flat area or something like that. But it does, I'm sure, provide a valuable service with at least concomitant to the impact of what you see, but I can't answer that. Because if you had, let's say, a series of these along a long span, let's say along Castle Creek, could they then be used as relay stations as well, to bounce from one to the other to improve cellular access versus, again, a large tower? And, that's perhaps for a future discussion. But
Other questions of staff this time? David, Allison, if you just state your name, full name for the record, and give us your presentation on this. Thank you for being here.
Sure. David Corbin on behalf of Aspen Skiing Company, and Allison Easley from Holland and Hart on behalf of American Tower Corporation and their subsidiaries. And we do have probably a commingled team of ASC and ATC people if you want additional technical questions answered. Let me just briefly give a little bit of background on kind of how we got here and why we're here. For the past 2 years or more, Aspen Skiing Company, American Tower, the county, actually the Forest Service, other stakeholders, Town of Snowmass Village, and City of Aspen, to varying degrees have been engaged in discussions about expanding, broadening, improving cell phone and broadband data communication capacities in the valley. Obviously, there was interest from the cell carriers themselves and from American Tower in Aspen Skiing Company's properties, just because it's nice to broadcast from mountains down into valleys. So they approached us about how might we incorporate cell technology on the mountains that would integrate with a broader, call it more public, community-wide cell system, sort of to your question, George. We've been in those conversations for quite some time, have had many different opportunities, both with the county, with the Forest Service, and ourselves separately with American Tower, to look into that cell phone infrastructure. What American Tower does, and I'll let Allison speak to this at greater length or detail, but essentially they plan and install the infrastructure for cell technology and then lease to the cell company carriers spots on their equipment or capacity within their equipment to then send and receive signals. So they in effect are kind of this coordinating conduit between the general public's use and the carriers. And American Tower would then be in a position to place the antenna or the other equipment, in our case on our mountains, in such a way that yes, they can communicate, they can be sort of serially in connection, and whether through other sorts of technologies such as a targeted microwave or fiber, which is definitely a part of a component that we'll be considering, they then build a more comprehensive or fuller system. Coverage may vary from area to area, but certainly in our case, the idea is to expand coverage areas on the ski mountains and at the base of the ski mountains to greater serve the public, our guests, our own individual uses, and so forth. So we're in the process with American Tower of undertaking a comprehensive planning exercise that would identify locations on our mountains and at our bases to do as you and Rachel both ask. And yes, there will be a master plan forthcoming that would include new opportunities or sites and locations at Buttermilk, as well as our other mountains, where those pieces of equipment would be installed. That process probably will be 2 years in the making from now until implementation, because we've got a fairly complicated plan put in place. We likewise will have to go through permitting in the city, in the county, with the Forest Service, and with town of Snowmass Village for the various components in this kind of larger, more comprehensive plan. The county, and I won't speak for them, but I know Phyllis and Lance have been in conversations with American Tower about other components or parts of what would be an integrated system in other areas of the county off of the ski company's property. So I won't speak any more to that. I would defer to Lance and Phyllis on that, in that regard. But as for us, we're at a point where we're really at execution stage of a contract with American Tower, putting forth this comprehensive plan as to all those components that would be on ski area properties or in our permit areas. So we would hope to bring a far more comprehensive plan before this body within the coming 6 to 12 months, and hopefully sooner rather than later. And then likewise go through the longer part of our permitting process, which will be the environmental review with the Forest Service of any of these pieces of equipment that may be on our permit areas that would require a NEPA analysis. So that is all really sort of at the precipice of going forward, and we're ready to proceed with that. What's described here is what's called a DAS system, or a distributed antenna system, that are really a series of smaller antennas, in this particular case shielded with just a fabric shroud that hides and prevents really the public from seeing the antennas themselves. But that DAS equipment is easily building mountable or lift mountable, though that isn't the preferred location for us in most instances. But we can put this kind of equipment on existing infrastructure or buildings and do so fairly unobtrusively. We have some small applications of that, for example, at Elk Camp, where it's hidden in a building and we've got good little coverage for, in this particular case, AT&T only in the Elk Camp area. Part of the program that we would be following here would be an aim to include, in essence, a series of new antennas in various nodes on the mountains, including at Buttermilk, that would replace a conventional tower with sort of a disguised monopine or faux tree, which is getting much better, I should say, as a sidebar, aesthetically. But we'd have faux trees that would be antennae locations on the mountain. And in the case of Buttermilk, as you all well know, the intention is to take this building down in 2 to 5 years, if that fits our capital plan, and we very much would hope by that time we'd have a different program in place for this cell coverage here. We don't intend on putting this technology on the new kids center. We would just leave this equipment in place until that larger master plans proposed, considered, reviewed, approved by the county in the case of Buttermilk. So I hope that answers the questions that were raised. As to the specific question you asked, Rachel, about that on-the-ground racking that's there, it's protected by fence. Our parking actually cuts off before then, so you can't actually, unless you were to just go driving through roped off areas.
South by Southwest.
Yeah, you couldn't really go right up to that or disturb that. It is at least protected, and it likewise is raised.
Okay.
So if somewhere would be totally out of control, yeah, you could get there, but generally not with any ordinary traffic control or vehicular control. That rack and equipment is really not exposed to that sort of damage on the ground. The kinds of components that this involves do include those antennas, or in the future perhaps these pines, plus then this racking on the ground wherever located, and then possibly connections again either through microwave or to fiber. The sort of plan that we will be thinking about with respect to the mountains would be to take fiber up the hills on the lifts, replace our communication lines, and then branch from those fiber locations to other spots on the mountain. So that's kind of an overview of where we're going in the future. As Lance has presented, because we needed coverage at the X Games and got the temporary commercial use for that purpose, it seems sensible to leave this equipment in place. American Tower asked us if we would agree to this submission for a special use review and hopefully permit, so that could continue in place and their agreements with carriers could then be ongoing. What this basically serves is largely just the area of the Buttermilk base. This is small enough, low enough that it doesn't extend, deeply beyond Highway 82 by any means, or even to the airport terminal. But consider this as at least a pocket of service for the Buttermilk base and immediate environs surrounding it. And we do have 2 carriers, AT&T and Verizon, on this system today, so at least we're serving that portion of the public quite readily that uses those carriers. So we think that's fairly effective and has been an improvement in the service there. I turn to Allison if she wants to go deeper into either how we think this conforms or how American Tower's business is anticipated going forward.
Thank you, David. Allison Easley again for Holland Parton representing American Tower. Thank you, Lance, for your thorough review of the land use code. I don't think we need to go further into it. We see total compliance with the land use code and the various master plans. Getting big picture again on this project, and David has done a very good job of already covering it, but to give you a kind of sense of the organization so that this makes sense as different phases come before you. There are 2 divisions of American Tower that will be in front of the board and in front of other permitting bodies in the area to provide this comprehensive service. On the one hand, more to Pickens County at select sites via larger cell towers and towers that have not yet been totally designed, and sites that have not been completely decided upon. And that's called a macro project in the American Tower world. And that is the person who is the project manager for that component of American Tower. Her name is Rebecca, and she's had lengthy discussions with Lance and others. The other side is what we're calling the DAS, Distributed Antenna System component of American Tower. And as David has already described, that involves hubs, nodes, fiber optics that are either buried or aerial. And the DAS system is more primarily based on the ski area bases, select sites on the ski area. And that project will be more handled by Holland and Hart and by the representatives of American Tower that are here today. American Tower is concerned about making sure that there's overlap, both informationally and service providing wise, between these two different divisions and the projects together. So we will do the best job that we can, and please help us help you to better understand the project overlaps at various times. I think that's all that we have, but happy to answer questions.
Rachel?
I guess it's more of a comment than a question for both of you. As we go forward, I think it'd be great if we could continue to see involvement with Pickens County at so many levels as you develop your master plan. And part of that is just the obviousness of the top of the mountain locations having the potential to have line of sight into some of the areas where we can't get to now. And you know, I realize your planning efforts may be naturally somewhat limited to service on the mountain, but when we think about, say, our summer guests who fill all our hotels, they're here for so much more than just on the mountain, and that safety and communication link still brings the resort quality as a whole up, whether it's up towards Independence Pass or Castle Maroon Valley, you know, these sort of things. So just as we're continuing our broadband efforts that Phyllis has helped leading up, that we stay in the loop with you and see that we can try to get multi-benefits out of your other future installations.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that a little bit. You know, I'm in favor of this application as a land use application, but I think this is touching on a broader aspect of broadband and cellular service being a big goal of this board moving forward. And it's great to add to the areas that have service, but we're also concerned with getting service to the other areas. And to put some of our cards on the table, I guess here, you know, part of that is making sure that there's a comprehensive plan, especially with companies like American Tower, and doing a little, you know, I guess horse trading with, you know, we'll be helpful in these areas if you can help us in areas that are harder, you know, like the Crystal River Valley, you know, the areas where we do need safety, you know, the Maroon Bells and the places that, sure, you're not going to get large usage out of those areas. But anyway, less to do with this application, but I think it's important, since we've got lots of representatives from American Tower here, to say that we hope to be working together in a lot of different aspects too. But as I said before, I think Lance went through the land use application very well and meets the criteria on this application. Michael?
David, how does the ski company know you need wireless service?
Anecdotally, more than anything, but if there's probably any one area where we get customer comments or complaints, it's really in the subject of, can I get more cell service on the mountain or at such and such a restaurant, or I'm in a hole and I'd like to pick up my data from, you know, my email and I can't get it, whether I'm at Gwen's or some other spot at Snowmass, for example. And we hear those comments, again, anecdotally. I wouldn't say we've got a systematized counting of it, but probably more than anything else, that's what we hear constantly, of give me more connection while I'm here vacationing.
And let me ask you about when people call in for ski patrol. I mean, there are those red phones on the mountain. Does anybody actually use those anymore?
People do use them, but you are correct, more often than not, those calls now come via cell.
And so it's important to the ski company from just a safety point of view for people to alert the ski company itself that they're in trouble or need help or lost.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. We need it for the guest. It has become a more essential tool. Obviously, Ski Patrol still carries radios, so there's still this overlap between technology, whether hard landline, or cell or radio. Those all sort of play a part in the communications now on the mountain. But cell is a critical part of it now. Even among and between our own employees, you know, they may use a cell and a radio. I know a lot of people in mountain ops who use both and use them frequently.
And instructors use cell phones to contact their clients.
Oh yeah, yeah, certainly.
So if they can't make contact, they can't meet.
Steve?
Allison, on this panoramic photograph, it has something called round shot at the top of each of the ski mountains.
So this is a snapshot image taken from Aspen Skiing Company's really cool camera abilities. I don't have the technical term, but basically you can go onto their site and get full 360-degree views of the tops of the mountains and scale in to different parts of the mountain that are less of a real-time capacity, more of a imagery capacity.
Would these be sites where a macro tower would be put for cell service?
So I probably should have, in this packet, maybe indicated that these are actually these have no relevance to the American Tower Aspen Skiing Company project plans. This is more straight from the computer at 10 o'clock at night, dumped into the PowerPoint slide.
It might or might not. Maybe from the round shot we can get a view of the future cell tower when it's constructed.
And that may be a nice way to present this material in the future.
Okay. And just to note that I have used those phones on the mountain at night when I'm driving snowcat to phone home with a message in the days before I had a cell phone. Okay. They get used for more purposes than you probably realize.
Maybe so.
Any further questions of the applicant? At this point, I'll open the public hearing for this item. Anybody wishing to speak may do so at this time. Just state your name and who you're with for the record. Seeing none, I will bring it back to the board for discussion. Rachel?
Yeah, as others have said, I find this to be a very good application and compliant with our codes, and I'm happy to make a motion to support the Aspen Skiing Company Buttermilk Wireless Cellular Facility Special Review for a cellular facility.
Second?
First and a second, any discussion? Steve?
I'm fully in favor of this. I think the fact that, the equipment's already there. Probably nobody even knows it's there because it's so unobtrusive. This is a no-brainer to me.
Okay.
All those in, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll see you again on this subject.
Well, I'll be working this one out.
We are moving to our BOCC open discussion part of our agenda.
Yeah, I just have one update for the board. Unfortunately, we've had one cancellation for our retreat panel, which is Scott Fitzwilliams. He was called back to a larger meeting, and we're working on an alternative right now. He's working on some suggestions, and we're working on some alternatives to try and replace his spot.
He's got a new deputy secretary.
And unfortunately, she's called to the same meeting. Staff today was thinking, even though our new district ranger is very new, it may be interesting to even have her on the panel and talking about her observations coming into the community fresh. I don't know if the board has any other thoughts along those.
Is she available?
My understanding is she's available from Scott, but he was double checking that. We just spoke yesterday afternoon.
Rachel?
Yeah, I think that she would be a good input to this process, both perhaps bringing some Forest Service experience from outside the valley of procedure and so on, but also it's a chance for this individual to begin to acclimate to our community a little sooner and faster and really hear from her other panelists, about the town, the community she's in. So I could see it as being very synergistically positive.
That was it.
Okay.
Open discussion from the board. I have an item that I'd like to address real quick. I have only been on the board for 3.5 years, and it's been a great 3.5 years. And I would just like to thank Lindy Dean for all of her wonderful service as our minute taker and advice giver and direction giver from all of us who serve as chair and everything. So Lindy has served fearlessly through many of these long meetings for years and years. So we very much appreciate all the service that you've given to us, and we have some flowers for you here and a bottle of coffee to celebrate your retirement here. So.
I'd like to thank the board. I've learned so much in the time I've been here just sitting in these meetings. Most of it was over my head, but as time went on, I started to get to understand a lot more, and it's a really great way to see how the community works, how the county works, and I appreciate it, all the input. Thanks.
Thank you, and enjoy that retirement.
Yeah,
Enjoy it very well.
I wouldn't be surprised if you got a phone call of, where's this file? I hope it's not, what did one of the county commissioners say during this meeting? But thank you very much for your service.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Well, maybe Lindy could make the motion to adjourn.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All those in favor for adjourning this meeting?
Aye.
Aye.